Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I love having my co-host Juanita Wootton-radko on. She's been my best friend. Well, we just won't tell you how many years, but you go back through some of the past episodes, we do leave some hints for you. And I think this September, we had a really special one. So if you go back, you might be able to figure out how long Juanita and I have been friends for. But she is an amazing BFF. She's an incredible person, and I am so happy to have her as the co-host of the Author to Authority podcast. Welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Kim. I am so happy to be here with you.
You know, back when I started doing the podcast, a lot of our episodes, I do them with guests, but I knew there was episodes that I wanted to do, without guests. And I thought, oh, do I really just want to stare into a camera and talk? And I do occasionally do that. There are a few episodes a year I do that, but I thought, I don't really want to do this. Juanita, will you help me? And of course, what do best friends do? They say,
sure thing. What time do you want me?
Not realizing what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
So on the last episode together, Juanita and I, we talked about, what book does your client need to read? And, the beginning of that episode, I talked about the fact that, you and I had been texting back and forth about some ideas of what we wanted to do for November's episodes. And I had texted you one thing and you thought it was something else. Mm-hmm. So, I thought of it from, the point of view of, you need to write a book because the book that your client needs to read is yours. Juanita took it from the point of view of, we should talk about really great books that we're reading that we think our clients and our audience here would love to learn about and read. So I decided that, instead of trying to figure out which one of us was right, because, well, we know the answer to
that. Spoiler alert. The answer we both say is me.
I would just do both episodes. So, our last episode together, which was the first Tuesday of the month, we talked about, why do you need to write a book? And when you've written a book, what do you do with it now? How do you now use this book to, to really reach your perfect target market and client, and why a book is different than many other forms of marketing. So today, though, what we're going to do, and maybe we'll do this once a season, is Juanita and I each have a book or two that we've been reading that I really think is going to benefit our audience, benefit you as an audience reader, as an entrepreneur, as a professional speaker and coach. So Juanita, what was the book that you picked for today?
I picked a classic of what I'd say of the self-improvement genre. That this book that I have right now, I'm giving you, I'm ramping up to it. I just want to see this book that I am holding was printed in 1982.
Ooh, we are 11 years old.
We are coming close to the 100-year anniversary of it. So the 90-year anniversary, actually. And it says, celebrating 70 years in print, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Oh, I thought you said 1982.
I said 1982 was when this was published. It was originally published in 1936.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, math, I know. What is she doing? What is she talking about? Well, I've had this book for not since 1982, but actually early 90s. My father had given me his copy of it, and I misplaced it, and I was kicking myself. And so, how do you find something that you've lost? You buy a replacement for it, which is what I did. And it was a good thing too that I'd gotten a second copy, because it got to the point. It was a paperback and was showing its age. I think his his book might have been from 1936. And anyway, why do I say this is such a good book? The title might make you think like it might sound a little cringy to people today, because like it sounds a little manipulative, but really it's not. There's a lot of good truths about how to interact with people. One of the things that I know it helped me with difficult clients time and time again. I can think of a couple of instances where I reviewed his section on dealing with difficult people, and I was like, I don't think they're right at all. So what? That having that opinion, you know where that gets you, when they don't think that you're right at all. And if you're the one willing to move, you're the one who's going to see the change happen. You're the one. So it was really antithetical to the way I wanted it to be. I didn't want that to be true, but I thought, all right, I'm going to test it out and see if it works. And I'm no further behind than if it does. If it doesn't work out for me, then when I did, I had a slice of humble pie with a little bit of ice cream on top, and
spoonful of sugar.
And then these clients who had been giving me toothache became some of my biggest fans. And I was like, what? This book is amazing. And it's been a little while since I read it, so this is back on my to read list, and just gonna see what nuggets I can get out of it again, because I think that a really good book can stand to be read over and over again. So that's my recommendation, is that people get their updated version of How to Win Friends and Influence People to lead you to success, no matter what job you want, no matter what your business is. You have to deal with other people at some point in your life. And if you don't like dealing with other people, read this book. It'll help you deal with them in a way that makes the whole experience better.
Well, the truth matter is, no matter what business you're in, even the e-commerce business, you have to deal with people. So, if you really don't like dealing with people, you might want to question being an entrepreneur. Maybe just become like this freelancer that you sit at home alone in your house and you only talk to people when you have to do a job.
And you still
have to talk to people.
You still have to talk to people. If you have to, there will be a time if you are purchasing if you ever need to purchase something, if you ever need to sell something, if you ever need to ask for help, all of and the answer is, when will that happen? Probably sometime today.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have a passage there that you have marked that you kind of particularly like?
I will find, this is my second copy, so it might take me a second to.
Well, while you're doing
all
that,
right, I've got it.
You've got it. Cool.
Yep,
just that was
quick. Now he's quoting Alfred Adler. Pardon me. In this passage, Alfred Adler, the famous Viennese psychologist, wrote a book entitled What Life Should Mean to You. In that book, he says, it is the individual who is not interested in his fellow men who has the greatest difficulties in life and provides the greatest injuries to others. It is from such individuals that all human failures spring. You may read scores of erudite tomes on psychology. You may want to have your dictionary handy. It is a vocabulary jump for some of us. You may read scores of erudite tomes on psychology without coming across a statement more significant for you and for me. Adler's statement is so rich with meaning, I'm going to repeat it in italics. It is the individual who is not interested in his fellow men who has the greatest difficulties in life and provides the greatest injury to others. It is from among such individuals all human failures spring.
Wow.
Yeah.
That one's going to be spinning around my brain for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't even know
What
what
about
to say.
you?
Well, I actually have two books I'm reading right now. So I thought I would go through both of them. So the first one is Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Mhm.
And I really like this book because, first of all, he gives this great general overview of traffic. And, you know,
You're not talking like cars, are you? You're talking about something else, just to clarify.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Getting traffic to your business. So whether it's getting traffic to your social media, whether it's online ads, you know, it's more about getting traffic so people can see what it is that you do. And I like it because he comes at it from so many angles. He comes at it from, you know, three angles. There's the, there's the traffic that you earn. So it's usually free, but it takes a lot of time. There's the traffic you pay for, doesn't usually take a lot of time, but can cost you a lot of money. And then the third source of traffic is, you know, the connections you make and other people sending you traffic. So I like the book because he looks at it from all three angles. But, you know, he also in the beginning spends a lot of time laying a foundation about figuring out who your dream customer is, right? Because any form of marketing, to be effective, you have to know who that dream customer is. And that's, you know, one of the foundations of author to authority. You know, your marketing is your foundation. Answers three questions, you know, who do you serve, how do you serve them, and who are you in relationship to those two? So I wanted just to read you a quick section here from Who is Your Dream Customer? And he's talking about your customers are becoming one of two things. Now you've identified which core desire your product or service is focused on. The next step to entering the conversation inside your customer's mind is to understand which direction they're moving. Every human being on this planet is always moving in one of two directions when they make a decision: away from pain or towards pleasure. Moving away from pain. The first direction that people can be moving in is away from pain. Let me show you a few examples of moving away from pain for each desire. So in terms of health, I'm overweight and I don't feel comfortable in my own clothes. Wealth, moving away from pain. I hate my job and want to fire my boss. Relationships, moving away from pain. I'm in a bad relationship and I don't know how to get out of it. Now, let's take those three examples again and do it as moving towards pleasure. Health, I want to get six-pack abs. Wealth, I want to buy my dream house or dream car. Relationships, I want more passion in my relationships. So I thought this was really kind of interesting, you know, when you look at this, and I have heard this before, is that, you know, in your marketing, you know, which one is more effective, moving towards pleasure or moving away from pain? And I've heard many, many different perspectives on it. But most of the perspectives agree that in terms of marketing and that, moving away from pain is more powerful than moving towards pleasure.
Interesting, because I would have said, oh, I know which way I want to think about it. I don't want to think about, I would rather think about moving towards pleasure in the example of the fitness.
Mhm.
I want six pack. Well, I want six-pack abs. I was thinking, do I? You know, do I want one? I have that honesty of what in my head, do I want buns of steel? No, I want buns of cinnamon. I want, that's
Oh.
moving towards pleasure for me.
Well, one of the things he talks about, it's more about what grabs more attention.
Mhm.
So people do want to move towards pleasure, but they're more motivated
To
about
avoid
moving away from pain.
Okay.
So, that's one of the reasons why I like this book, because it just gets you thinking in such a different direction. When you're creating your content, now it doesn't mean that everything that you create is about moving away from pain. Okay. So there's all sorts of different types of content, but just something it got me thinking about is, what pain points do my clients have that I can be encouraging them to move away from? Right. So, when you're thinking about your clients, what pain points do they have that you can speak to? See, this is one of the things with being an authority is you understand your clients, you understand their pain points, you understand their problems, and you can speak to their problems. And I think that's a powerful thing in the business. When you can speak to a person's problem so powerfully that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you understand them.
I get that. Okay. I remember selling sewing machines. I'd ask one of the first questions I'd ask after I'd found out what kind of sewing machine they were already working on. One of the early questions I'd ask, can you tell me 3 things that bug you about your current machine? Because what are 3 things that you don't like about the machine you're working on now? Because if you had no complaints, you wouldn't be in the sewing machine store. And my thought was, I just found that was a really rich answer, because they'd say, oh, I hate winding the way you have to unthread the machine to wind a bobbin, because I'm always doing that. I'm like, would you like to see how our machine works? And you leave the needle threaded and you just put it over here and ta-da, separate bobbin winding motor. Pretty cool, huh? You just flip the switch back and then put the bobbin in there and you're back on the road sewing. And sometimes that's all I have to show them. And
Yeah.
the other
Because
thing was making buttonholes.
That's the pain point that's bothering them the most, right? The amount of wasted time. It's not that they have to do this to wind the bobbin. It's the fact that they're in the middle of a project. They've got to stop and waste time to, wind this bobbin so they can continue working.
And sometimes when they rethread the machine, they're, because often you get a machine that your first sewing machine is a hand-me-down machine from someone. So it's not got all of the advantages that newer machines have. And rethreading it can be a challenge, especially if you're not a frequent sewer. You're like, oh, did I do this right? Did I miss a step? And often people would. And then if you missed a step, it wouldn't go through the right place. And then your tension would be thrown out of whack. And then you'd think, oh, this machine is a piece of junk. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I hate sewing. That was the
progression.
The progression. And that's where your mental train was driving to. I'm really liking the sound of this book, Kim. Just the thought exercise of, is this something where I'm moving away from pain or am I moving toward pleasure? I feel like personally I want to move toward more pleasure. But moving away from pain is better. Is a pleasure in its own right, I suppose.
I think, one of the things I thought about is the fact that, many times you have to get people to move away from pain first before you can move them towards pleasure.
Yes.
Because if you try to move them towards pleasure and they've got this pain point, this pain point's like this obstacle in front of their face that they can't see the pleasure. Mm-hmm. Right. So when you can move that pain point out of the way, now you're like, okay, this is out of the way. Now look where you're going.
Yeah. It's like they can't even imagine that there's a better situation than the one they're currently in.
Mhm.
It's like, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, going to the garden to eat worms.
Oh.
So that's really an interesting book. Is that what was the title again? Traffic
Secrets by Russell Brunson. It is available on Amazon, but the best way is just to Google the book, because Russell Brunson is the head of ClickFunnels.
Mhm.
And so he's got a whole series of book.com secrets, expert secrets, traffic secrets. And, you know, if you go to one of his websites, you can get like all 3 books or whatever, or the special deals or whatever, if you go just to the website. So it says here on the back, secretstrilogy.com. So there you go.
Trilogy.com.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Do you have another book for us, or do you have more to
Yes.
tell us about that one?
So this book here, Sell Like Crazy by Sabri Suby. I like this book and I don't like this book.
Oh.
It's very informative. It sends my brain spinning, but the language can be crude and a little beyond what I prefer.
Spicy sentence enhancers. Okay. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is a
I like
trend.
that. Like that. Spicy sentence enhancers. So, but
It's a trend we're seeing, yeah.
The knowledge shared in this book is incredible. And this is one of these books I'm going to have to go back and read it again. There's just so much in it. I'm almost through it the first time. I think, you know, I need to go back and read it again to really cement it. And, you know, how now am I going to use it? Because the first time through, it's just like, okay, there's so many ideas and concepts, right? That you're just trying to get it all in. And now the second time through, it'll be like, okay, now I can put the game plan together to use this book. So on the back of the book, it says, warning, this book will flood your business with a torrential downpour of buyers. What a great headline. So powerful content, make a statement like that. Of course, you have to be able to prove it's true. Can't make a statement because that's just clickbait if it's not true. But, you know, he does show you how to do that in this book. So there's this one part, and it's closer to the end of the book here. And he talks about, remember, no one likes to be sold to, but everyone likes to buy. You want to get your prospects excited by solving a part of their problem on the call. So at this point, you know, you've done your marketing, you've attracted them in, you know, you're on that phone call with them, right? Or at least making it very clear you can help them solve it and leave them begging for more. It's like when you go to a fancy restaurant and the waiter brings you a delicious hors d'oeuvres, you know, one of those little appetizers or small starter dishes. You eat it, it's incredibly tasty, and then your digestive juices start going crazy and you order half the menu. It's the same principle here. You want to leave your prospects starving for the main course, which is your core offer. Ultimately, you want to leave your prospects better than when you found them, meaning regardless of whether or not they choose to buy, you want to deliver massive value and create goodwill. And when I was reading that, I was actually thinking about, you know, a conversation we'd had with our client on Monday night. And so I want you to talk about the law of reciprocity.
The shortest version of the law of reciprocity is givers get. If you give someone a gift, they will be very appreciative, but they will also feel a compulsion, an impulse to give you something in return. So that's really beneficial to any person in business, is if you're giving good information, value for the client, it turns back into revenue for you.
You know, and I got thinking about that because, you know, people think, well, if I give them all, if I tell them all, right? If I tell them everything in my book, if I tell them all in the call, they're not going to use my products and services. The reverse is actually true. See, I do phone calls. I'll give away an hour of my time and I will answer any question anybody has about publishing. Now, some questions I can't fully answer because if you ask me how to format a book, first of all, that's hours of courses. But, you know, I will give them some basics. that they can start with, right? I give them the value. I don't hold anything back. And, people come off of phone calls with me feeling like they've received something of value. Sometimes they've never bought my products or services, but I've helped them come up with the main themes for their book, sometimes even a title. And I've not charged a cent. Now, my services, that's different. That I charge for. But my knowledge, I share freely.
And that's very generous. Like, that was something I feel there's a balance. When I was teaching sewing classes, I needed to generate income from those classes.
Yes.
And but one of the things that my students got, one of the gifts, I had all the proper equipment. I had high-end sewing machines that they could work on. And that was, so I was giving in a different way. I often said that what I have in my head is worth knowing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would teach in a class, if you came to one of my classes, it wasn't just how to make a bag, a tote bag, but you'd learn how to use a rotary cutter, how to square off fabric so that your project doesn't get stretched and distorted over time. There were all of these bonus components, bonus nuggets of knowledge that you'd get in the process.
But I know for a fact that people would come into your store and ask you questions, and many times you would answer those questions. Now, not in humongous detail, and you wouldn't spend a half an hour, but if someone came in with a simple problem and they asked you a question, you didn't say, okay, you got to take my course. You would answer their question. So you give them that value. Now, there does come that point when you can't give everything away, right? So you'd ask their basic question.
Once
maybe
in a while you meet that one person who is just there to pump you dry, but
but that's when you stop and you put that limit. But if someone just comes in and asks you one or two really quick questions, you would answer them. You would take that time to stop and answer their questions, right? Now, if it got more extensive, then you'd be saying, you know what, that's getting a little too extensive. I can't really do that here. Well, I'm trying to serve customers, but I do have this course.
Yeah.
Right. Or, if you wish to book a one-on-one time with me, you can book an hour of my time for, however much money. Right. So it's not about giving everything away, but it is about giving some things away.
Yeah. Sharing. There's a great value in sharing, and you'll feel good too.
But again, like you said, that law of reciprocity kicks in. So, you've now helped this person. So when you offer them something else, it makes them more inclined to want to take advantage of it. So it's not a manipulation. It's just, they want to help you back out because you help them. And they don't always, right? It's not like it's an automatic, but they're more likely to if you give them something of value first. Yeah.
Where they could have bought their sewing machine at a big block store, but they saw the value in buying it at my sole proprietor store because of the additional value that they got from what I gave with my
well, your owner's lessons were amazing. I got to take advantage of one of those.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the owner's lessons, particularly. That was, when that was often a good close when I'd invite people to purchase a sewing machine. Like, I'd say even at the entry level, which was about $150, $160, I said, I know you can buy a machine for $99 up the road at Block Store, but you won't get any lessons with them. Whereas if you buy your partner, yourself, your child, a sewing machine from me, it comes with a minimum of 3 sewing lessons, 3 2-hour sewing lessons. So you're going to get minimum 6 hours on the sewing machine.
Yep,
And
that's awesome.
So that's
your clients loved that when you used to do that for them. I know, because I helped you out in the store every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I think we've had a really great conversation here. We have talked about 3 really powerful books that you can use in your business and use to help you grow your business. So any last thoughts before we chime off for today, my friend?
I think we should just go over those titles one last time so that people who have been writing them down can just make sure they get it. My recommendation was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm holding it up for the video, by Dale Carnegie. And I would say that that's a must read for anybody. And your 2 books were?
Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson. And it says on the back here, you can get it at secretstrilogy.com. And then Sell Like Crazy by Sabri Suby. And on the back here, there is a website that says www.selllikeCrazy.co. So thanks so much for joining us today. I've loved this conversation. I think we'll do this, maybe once a season is talk about some books that are just really powerful that we're both really enjoying. So this has been Juanita Wootton-radko and Kim Thompson-pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode. Bye now.
Bye.